All right, let's talk creating tracks in Pro Tools. So this video might be a bit of a shorty video. It's going to definitely start out as more of a beginner video. We're going to go into a little more detail as we go, but hopefully people find this helpful. Let me know what you think. So YouTube has informed me that people want to know how to add audio tracks in Pro Tools. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with the topic for this video. So I'm going to start just by showing you how to create a new track in Pro Tools. So the way you can create a new track in Pro Tools is you can do the shortcut Command-Shift-N. If you're on a Windows, I believe that's Control-Shift-N, and it opens up this new track dialog. You can also go to the track menu up top here and go New, and that'll bring you to the same place, right? And so within this dialog, you can choose the type of track that you want to create. So you have mono, stereo, you might have a whole bunch of other options here as well. Usually we're going to be creating either mono or stereo tracks in Pro Tools. And generally the idea is if you're trying to record to a microphone, for example, you want to create a mono track because usually you just have one microphone, right? Unless you have a stereo mic, you might create a stereo track for a stereo mic, but that is a special instance. Most microphones are mono microphones. So if you just have one microphone you're trying to record, you just want to do a mono audio track because we're recording audio with a microphone. When we use things like MIDI instruments, we might create an instrument track. That's another very common one. When we create aux tracks, that's when we're taking multiple tracks usually and routing them to one single track to process them all together. That's to help either glue them together or to put some kind of effect on all of them at once. For example, if we want them all to sound like they're in the same room, we might send them all to the same aux track and then put a reverb on that aux track. And then we also have a couple types of filter tracks, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. And then we have the master fader, which is honestly the first thing I would create in every single Pro Tools session that you make is you want to make a stereo master fader. And that's because the master fader, the way we use it in Pro Tools is it's designed for you to take everything within your session and send it through that master fader, and it helps you see what's going out your left and right speaker. It helps you track what's going out through the left and right speaker. It helps you make sure you're not peaking and distorting, which is also called clipping sometimes. It helps you make sure that everything's not at like too quiet a level. It helps you kind of just monitor the whole thing that's going out that left and right speaker. So I would definitely make this master fader first thing. And so one thing you can do is you can click the plus icon here to add another option if you want to create multiple tracks at once. And you can also use the command arrow keys to switch between your options here. So command and left and right arrow, or I believe it's control and left and right arrow if you're on Windows, right? Can toggle through the options here. So I'm going to do a mono audio track. If I wanted to change the audio track to a different type of track, I can also use the shortcut instead of clicking. So I can do command and then the down arrow to switch between my options here. I'm going to stick with an audio track here. And you can rename the tracks here. You can rename them later. One thing I would recommend doing is, for example, let's say this mono audio track is for one microphone that I'm recording to. I might name that track as soon as possible. So I might be like Cato's mic. Oh, I'm going to not do an apostrophe just to be safe. Cato's mic. And then I'm going to hit create. And now if I record to this track, to this microphone, and what I can do is set the input here. I'm going to actually set it to my microphone here. I'm going to set this to my main output. I'm going to mute it so we don't hear two of me, but I can record here to this track. Oh, and you know what? This microphone is actually not plugged into this input right now. So I'm going to set this to my talkback microphone, and I'm going to mute this so we don't hear two of me. I'm going to turn on my talkback so we can talk through that. So I can record to this track right here. I'm recording to this track right here. Check, check. Talking into this microphone. So the reason why I wanted to mention this is because I named this track first, now whatever clips I record onto this track are named after that track name. So it's called Cato's mic _1. So if I then open up my clip list by clicking on this little arrow over here, this has all of my files that are in my session. So all my audio files, all my MIDI files, stuff like that. And you'll notice, where is it? This clip, let me click on it. It'll highlight it here. So here it is, Cato mic _1. If I, like, for example, deleted this and wanted to find it later, and I'm like, oh gosh, where was that take? You know, where did it go? I want to bring it back in and try to line it up again. I can find it here and drag it over. I believe that was the same one. It's right there. Let's do ZZ and see. Yeah, it looks like the same file. Yep. I just realized I had a Cato mic and then a space _1. So that's going to be two different files. Let's look at it. Yeah, so that's a very different file there. But the point is that it's a really good habit to name this track as soon as possible if you are recording. But so that's how you make a track, right? I went into a little bit more than just making the track there. But that's how you make a track. Command-Shift-N to create a new track or track new. And one thing you'll notice is I have the nameplate for this track highlighted. See how it's white in the background here instead of this darker gray? So if I make a new track, let me make, for example, let's say I make an aux track here. You can see what an aux track looks like. It will actually place the new track or tracks, whatever you just created, below whatever track you have highlighted. So if I had highlighted this track and then done it, it puts it below the track that I've highlighted. So you can kind of control things that way, right? I'm going to delete this track. I'm going to delete this track because we don't need this. I already have one up here. So that's creating new tracks. Hopefully that covers the thing that YouTube says people are looking for. Let's talk about identifying tracks while we're here. So here's this Cato mic track. If I do Command equals to switch to my mix window, this is what looks more like a soundboard, right? So from the top to the bottom, the sound runs down through our plugins. So this is where we add effects and processing. It runs down through our sends. If we create a send on a track, it's basically creating a copy of that audio and sending it elsewhere. So we can send it wherever we want, right? And then we have our input panel, our output panel. It comes all the way down, right? This is kind of mimicking a mixing board. And then we ultimately have like our volume fader and stuff. We can solo or we can mute things. But so let's say I have this track here and I'm wondering what kind of track this is, right? If I look on the bottom right here, just above the nameplate, we have a little symbol. So this one has, it looks like a little waveform. This one has a little arrow. You'll notice my master fader has a little sum symbol, and that's how you can actually tell what type of track you're looking at. So for an audio track, it's this little waveform symbol. For an aux track, it's this little arrow. And then for the master fader, it's a sum symbol. And so that's because with the master fader, again, the purpose of using a master fader most of the time is to sum all our audios together and show what's going out that left and right speaker. You'll notice over here, I have a couple tracks that have the little piano keyboard symbol, and that's because these tracks, this one and this one, both have the symbol, this one too. And that's because these tracks are actually instrument tracks. So they are the type of track, for example, if I'm playing on my MIDI keyboard and I want to play in those notes, they're the tracks that hold the MIDI data for what was played. So if we look at these, I don't even know if I have anything on these. It doesn't look like I do. But let me make this one active. Right now it's inactive. So I'm going to click onto it, make active. I just right-clicked there and then clicked make active. I'm going to record enable this, and the default should be for my keyboard. So here is my keyboard. Let me actually put my headphones on so I can hear what I'm doing. Oh, it's on percussion. So let me switch this over to something that's like more melodic. All right, so I have this instrument track, and basically if I go to record on this instrument track, so I'm going to hit 3 on my numeric keypad to start recording. I could also hit this red button and then this play button, and that'll get it recording as well. But now it's recording, it's waiting for me to hit the keys. And then when I hit the keys, you'll notice that it's storing that data on what keys I hit and when I hit them. So here is the actual data. It's not recording any audio. The computer is creating the audio based off of the data. So that's what MIDI is, right? It's data on what buttons we pressed, how long we pressed them for, how hard we pressed them, a whole bunch of stuff like that. So that's what an instrument track is. It just houses that data for you, and then you can add software to it. So in this instance, I added this Labs plugin that generates the audio off of that data. So I just had this as a piano. I can swap this to something else if I want to now. That's the beauty of MIDI. Let's do that. I don't love that sound, but let's try it. See? So that's what an instrument track is. It basically holds MIDI data and then allows you to add software to create audio from it. So yeah, let's see. We made new tracks. We learned how to identify tracks. Each track will have its own type of symbol here, right? So we can look and quickly see. That's how I know, for example, sometimes my students try to make a master fader, but they don't actually make a master fader. They might make an aux track and then make it red and just hope that that's the same thing. It is not the same thing. The master fader does behave differently than aux tracks in some ways. It's very similar in other ways, but it does behave differently. So that's one of the fastest ways that you can tell if you've properly made a master fader is by looking at the symbol here. You'll also notice with a master fader, you don't have input and output panels. You just have this one panel here for the output path. And you'll also notice that a master fader doesn't have any sends, right? Because it's supposed to be the last stop for the audio, so to speak. That's kind of what you're using to monitor everything together. So yeah, those are some basics on some of the tracks. Let's talk about folders really quick. So we have folders in Pro Tools. This is an example of a folder right here. It has the little folder icon, as you can see. And if I click on it, it'll open up and you'll notice that I have a bunch of tracks that are within this pink folder. So you can see this pink line going around here and then back up and around. And so if I close this, I don't see them anymore. So this is a really great way to just visually clean up your session. So I have started doing this where I'll have like all my vocals in one folder. I might have all my percussion in another folder. I might have all my bass instruments in another folder. Usually it's just like one bass instrument, right? And then I might have like all my keys in another folder, all my guitars in another folder. So this is an example of your basic folder. So we have Command-Shift-N. If you go to the basic folder, that is what you get here. It's just a way to house a bunch of tracks together. You can group folders, you can solo mute, but it's very simple. Otherwise, you don't have like plugins or sends or anything like that. If you want to create a routing folder, however, I'll create one really quick. You'll notice that it operates the same way. I can take a bunch of tracks and put them in the folder, just drag and drop. And so now if I want to show or hide those tracks really quickly, I can easily just open and close the folder. But the folder has some more functionality to it. I can change panning on the folder. So if I option click, I can bring things to the middle. I can change routing on the folder. So I actually have to route, for example, all these tracks. None of them are actually going out through folder 1 through that routing. So if I wanted them to be reflected on this meter and affected by any plugins that I add here and part of any sends that I add here, I would have to actually set these to be taking ultimately going out, right? This folder 1 option here. So let's go look for that. There's the folder 1 stereo option. They're inactive right now, so it's giving me an error. But if these were active, it would not give me that error. Here, I can make these tracks active. So yeah, when you're creating your folders, you just kind of want to think about what you're trying to do, what you want to do, what the goals are, and use them accordingly. If you just want to visually clean up your session and be able to like hide a bunch of tracks all at once or display a bunch of tracks all at once and kind of keep them categorized within a folder, then you can just use the basic folder. But if you might want to, for example, compress all of them together or do a send to like the reverb or something like that, then you might want to actually use a routing folder because there's a little more functionality there. You can also control the level overall for the whole folder. So you can have a bunch of tracks that you've worked with, you've edited, you've adjusted their levels, you've added plugins to them. And then when you have them kind of sitting nice relative to each other, you can just go, okay, I don't want to look at that anymore. I just want to handle it with this one track, essentially, right? It's a folder track, but it's one track. So that's the great advantage of folders. I think that personally for me, the biggest advantage to using folders is to be able to clean up a session like that. Because some of my sessions get to be hundreds of tracks and it can be such a pain. For example, like if you're trying to find something in the edit window to have to scroll for like a year and like spot it all, and we have color coding and that really helps. I've definitely gotten very, very strict about using color coding over the years. But when you just have a million tracks here, it's just such a pain. And being able to have this folder and just open and close it. And then when you're done working with it, make sure you have it closed so that you can then find other stuff faster. It's so convenient and it's a huge time saver. And it will display whatever content you have within the folder over, in the edit window here. So you're not going to edit it in here, but you can kind of see what's in there, which can be helpful, right? If you're like, oh, do I have anything in this folder in the verse here? No. Okay, cool. Cool. So I think that's all I have time for today. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. If you want more detail on anything, if you want another video, for example, just on folders, let me know. We can dig into more of the details on folders and using folders. I know that's something that people have been kind of interested in lately. I've had some people ask me about it. But for anyone searching how to make a new track in Pro Tools, hopefully this gave you that answer plus some information. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And this channel is an educational channel. It's pretty nerdy. I'm not doing a ton of like sales stuff, for example. So if you want more videos like this, if you want to encourage more videos like this, then please, please, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment on the videos. Anything helps. I would really appreciate it. Tell your friends about my videos. So with that said, please also feel free to check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/CatoNoise, and my patrons get access to additional content. We have a Discord server we're hanging out on. We're doing a book club on the Discord server, and we have early release videos that I post to the Patreon feed as I create them. We've had some private Zooms together, stuff like that. So please feel free to check that out if you feel so inclined. And other than that, I come out with new videos every Wednesday, and thank you so much for hanging out. Okay. But so let's say I have this track here. And what was I going to talk about? I hope that made some sense, and I hope it wasn't too disorganized feeling, because I know sometimes my videos are very like, oh, you're just hanging out with this person in the studio and they're showing you how they do their work, and it's not super structured, and I hope that's okay. But let me know what you think. I'm always curious.